Welcome back. Today is a big cook, a very special meal. It is a smoked pork ragu. Now this is inspired by, drawn from Chef Tom on ATT Barbecues, The Source on YouTube. Subscribe to that, it's one of my favorite channels. Changing the ingredients up a little bit. First of all, we're gonna smoke the pork, then we're gonna make a mirepoix of sorts with the tomato sauce. We're gonna use some delicious Samarzen tomatoes here from our friends at Longo's. We've got some great ingredients that it's going to go on to the rub. We've got our pappardelle that it's going to sit on. Like I said, we've got some chorizo. We got our pork shoulder. It's all going to come together. And then we're also going to do a survey of an appy with some mussels with white wine sauce and chorizo underneath. So lots of work to do. It's about a 5-6 hour cook in total. Let's get started. All right, so we're set here. We've got our ingredients. We're gonna make a rub, a fresh rub, and in that rub will be a number of different things. We're gonna add some of this smoke on wheels. It's kind of an olive oil based marinade. We're gonna add some of that. We're gonna drop in some Tuscan steak spice. Then we've got this amazing, I found this elephant garlic. Look at the size of this thing. So I think we'll put in 1 cube of this garlic. We've got some fresh hot peppers from my father-in-law's garden and some Italian parsley. So let's get chopping. It all goes in to our Vitamix, then we'll blend it up. So let's get chopping. Just wash this, quick cut here and get most of these stems off. This is a lot of parsley, but we're making a lot of rub. And we don't need to make it up too fine, but for sure, just a rough chop, or better than a rough chop, I would say. This will form the foundation of our pork marinade. So let's get that into our Vitamix. So then we're going to put in these delicious hot peppers, and that's going to add just a touch of heat. In the winter, in Chef Tom's original recipe, he puts in some peppernatos, which adds a kind of a brininess that we're not going to have, but that's okay. We'll just rough chop these up. These are pretty hot actually, so it's going to make a nice top to that rub for sure. This over here, we're going to throw in about a tablespoon of our cattleman's, which is about that much. Very good. And look at this garlic, isn't that crazy? Elephant garlic, they call that. I found it at Whole Foods, so I thought I'd give it a try. As you can see, pretty big pieces, so we don't need 2 or 3, as is what's called for in the recipe. So let's just chop this in. And we crush. There we go. Oh, yeah, we're just gonna give that a rough chop. Perfect, let's add that in. And last but not least, we're going to add in our smoke on wheels marinade. Now it calls for about 3 tablespoons. This is about a tablespoon, so let's see how this goes. 1, 2, 3, and there's not much left in the jug. Maybe I'll keep that for later, actually. All right, let's get this on to our Vitamix and blitz away. Perfect. Look at that, it's like a paste. It smells delicious. Okay, so we've got a nice pork butt here. It is boneless, which actually suits this recipe quite well. So I'm just looking for a bit of extra this and a bit of extra that. Bit of a fat cap here, so we'll cut that fat cap off. Some of it adds flavor, some of it just adds chewiness. And this part I think I'll take off as well. Keep your blade on an angle here, and then grab a piece and let gravity do the rest. Also get your fingers out of the way. There you go, and just pull back as you're cutting. All right, that's good. And then from here, we basically cut into about 2-inch parts, 2-inch cubes. We want to cube it up. We want the smoke to create this beautiful crust and very smoky bits. And you'll see what we're going to do. We're even going to actually add in extra smoke. We're going to cook it for about, or smoke it, I should say, for about 2 to 2.5 hours. We want it up to about 150 degrees, give or take. And then it goes into our tomato sauce, and it'll all break down. You want the pieces big enough so they don't disappear, give you something to work with. There we go. So there we've got our pork, and then let's pour some of our marinade on here. Look at that, how smooth that is. Get that rubbing into the pork. I wish, as always, I wish it had a smell-o-vision, because the smell of this is just amazing. That's lots of marinade. That's probably a little too much, actually, but that's okay. Now, you could let this sit for a couple of hours, but as Chef Tom would say, it's not a requirement. All right, so we're all set. We've got our pork that's been kind of sitting in our marinade for a few minutes, not too long. We've got our Yoder YS640S. We've got that put at 275. And we're also gonna give it a little bit of help. We're gonna pump up the smoke by using this thing, an amazing smoker it's called. Basically it's a tube, we're gonna put some pellets in here and then we're gonna light it. So what we're gonna get here then is double the smoke. So we're gonna fill that. Let's get our pork onto the yoder. We wanna space these out, allow all the yumminess and smoke, and we've got lots of room on the yoder. It's got a beautiful cooking surface so we don't have to worry about getting crowded. Love this tray, very solid. It's one of my favorite features of the yoder, right? You can pull this out all the way to here and it's nice and solid. It's not gonna move, so it allows you, instead of having to reach into the barbecue, you can just pull it out. All right, now let's get some pellets and we're gonna draw from our main supply here. We'll fill up this amazing smoker. I'm using a competition blend today. It's a mix of hickory, cherry, and one other fruit wood. All right, so then you've got your amazing smoker. Now what we do here, we're gonna put this in and we're gonna fire it up and get it going. You want all these to catch fire and then let them go for 30 seconds or a minute. There we go. Let the flame go and then blow it out. All right, this thing is good. Let's blow it out. Push it back in. Gonna put our thermometer in because we want our pork to get to 155. There we go. Goes in through the side here. Closes up nicely. And let's just put that in one piece of pork. And that'll keep an eye on our temperature. 2, maybe 3 hours, that's phase 1. Well, it's been close to 3 hours. We're now getting set for our big second part of this cook, which is the tomato mirepoix, the tomato sauce. At the base is going to be these San Marziano tomatoes, wonderful tomatoes from Longo's, but we're going to have all kinds of vegetables that goes into this and tomato sauce, and then we're going to put these smoky bits of pork inside. A little white wine is going to go in there as well from the can, one of our favorite wineries, 13th Street in the Niagara region in Ontario. A little bit of spice, a little bit of this. My favorite chorizo, if you tune in, you know, best chorizo in Toronto from our friends at Cumbres. So that is going in, and that's going to be our base. Let's get started on phase 2. We're just getting started on this phase 2. First and foremost is the base, and we're going to dice this up in very small pieces, and we're going to render this up in such a way that it creates the base for everything we do coming up. So we're just going to cut this into small pieces. I've got the Lodge cast iron going, a little bit of oil in it just to keep it happy. What you're going for here is a fair bit of consistency actually in the cut, just so everything cooks all at the same time. And we're looking for these to just render down, release some of those oils, and that will provide the base for us as we start putting our vegetables in. A little bit of help. Let's go get these smoky chunks. All right, we were looking for a temperature of 150, 155, and right now we're at exactly 150, so we're good to go. Beautiful. Look at these smoky chunks of pork. Those look beautiful. Check out the bark on these. Beautiful. All right, while our chorizo is sizzling away, we're going to add in our ingredients. You want these cut big enough. You don't need to dice them too finely. You're supposed to use like 2 cups, basically. That's what Chef Tom calls for this recipe. I'm going to use, you know, the half of the onion that was sitting there. It's the great recipe for doing these clear outs. And another onion, and that will be close enough. All right, so we're just continuing, throwing in, just for good measure, a couple of these hot peppers. The recipe doesn't exactly call for it, but throwing them in anyway, just to add a bit of kick, but also because they're fresh from the garden. So I'm gonna add them in, because that's the time of the year it is. And I'm gonna put in some zucchini, which is definitely not called for, but I'm gonna use it in this one because we have fresh zucchini from the garden, so it would be a shame not to take advantage of that. Now you could substitute celery, whatever it is you like. By far one of my favorite things to cut, zucchini. So let's get those in. to our mix. Very nice. We're gonna need some garlic. So I got this giant elephant garlic thing again. So just one of these. That will go in a minute or two. That doesn't need to go in right now. And we can just smash this. It'll all break up quite nicely. We don't have to be too fine. All right, now that's glazing along nicely. Now I want to do my carrots. Add some wonderful color. And again, we're not aiming for anything other than a fair bit of consistency in the size, just so it cooks all around the same degree. Let's get those in. Now, as that's softening up, we're also going to add bay leaf, a couple little bay leaves, and some of this Cattleman's Italiano, both salt and some spice, some heat, and it's just a really, really nice flavor. I've become a real fan of this. About a tablespoon. About that much. I'm going to turn up the heat because now I'm going to start putting in a few colder things. So the first thing, I'm going to deglaze with a bit of wine. Dry white wine. This is a nice Riesling. Comes in a can. Amazing. Oh, a little bit of salt and pepper actually. But before I do that, it's my mixed salt and pepper. Very handy. Let's get our wine in here. You're looking for about a 1/4 cup probably. We'll let that deglaze a little bit. Well, while we're here, we don't want that to go to waste. Delicious. That's going to go perfect, perfect, perfect with this. Let's add our garlic. And then let's add in our San Marzano tomatoes. This is a great brand, the Curato brand from Longo's. If you're near Longo's, pick them up. Or if not, your favorite San Marzano tomatoes. There we go. Look at those colors. That's going to cool down our pot, but that's one of the reasons I turned it up nice and high. Now comes the fun part. We take our beautiful chunks of pork and into a mirepoix it goes. There we go. Into our sauce. And they're going to just braise in there for hours. Break down and add that nice smoky flavor. Now I'm probably going to add a bit of water to this amongst other things as I cook, probably a couple of cups over the course of the cook, as it will definitely dry out. I might actually add a bit of water to this now. There we go. The whole roast is now in. There we go. And adds the benefit of cleaning up your can. A little bit more maybe. There we go. All right, off to the smoker. All right, I've cranked up the smoker to about 375 right now. It's running at about 420. Sometimes it runs hot before it settles out. That's not an issue. So I've taken out the top rack just to make it a bit easier for us. So let's open it up and slide this right in. I'm not going to put it over direct heat. I'm going to put it right over there. Of course, the heat source is here. It's hotter here than it is over there. The idea is leave the cover off, let the smoke continue to infuse, and let the pork braise probably for at least 2 hours, maybe even longer. And again, temperature set at about 375. All right, our smoked pork is on the barbecue smoking away. And now for the appetizer. I've already made some scallops with a little bit of bacon. I'll put an episode together around that, just a quick little episode. Water's on boil for our pasta. And now, as an appy, I'm going to make mussels. So in the mussels, we're going to have chorizo as a base, mussels, white wine. Let's get to it. This mussel recipe is a pretty straightforward. We've got some chorizo sausage in our pan here. We're going to let that render down, and then in go the mussels. Now they started to open up a little bit because of the heat, but we'll throw these in. I've rinsed them up, some fresh mussels and PEI, and we're going to add a bunch of stuff. This is rendering up quick, and then we'll get going. And now we're going to add the butter. There we go. And we're going to pour in our mussels. To this, we're going to add some white wine. And we're going to add some thyme and some other spices just to come through, and a little more butter. There's a lot of butter that goes into this recipe. This is Quebec butter I got at Cumbrae's. So let's get some salt and pepper on for now. All right, let's get that lid back on. And we'll get this cooking. That doesn't take long. You can easily overcook mussels, so do not overcook the mussels. Our mussels are done. They've been cooking here with the chorizo, and they are ready to serve. So let's serve them up. Look at that, beautiful. You won't want to overcook your mussels, which is a big temptation, but as long as they're open, They're fresh. They're good to eat. There you go. All right, we're in our last phase of a 5-hour cook. Our pasta's been cooking along our pappardelle. Let's lift it up. Who doesn't love this pasta cooker? Once again, indispensable. So let's get that in going. Now let's take a look at our pulled pork, or what's now, after 5 hours of cooking, we've got that shell. It's been in the mirror pot with the tomato sauce. And look at it, it's just falling apart. It is just ready to be dished out. So let's dish out one of these and let's see how that goes. Some pappardelle noodles, a little base of pasta, and oh my goodness, look at this. Oh, beautiful. And then we're gonna put a little bit of ricotta cheese on here. We're gonna finish it off with a bit of parm. And there we go.